Hey, my name is April. I'm the peaceful wife, and I would like to talk about something I had to learn to do when I began my journey of discovering being a wife God's way. I realized that I actually had to throw out almost everything that I thought I knew about being feminine, being a wife, even about being a Christian and about marriage and roles in marriage. Um, for me, I had to dig way down and get rid of all the junk in my soul until I got to the point where all I had left was Christ. And that was my foundation. And then I rebuilt from there and made sure that tried to make sure that every single thing I built my life on was in line with the Bible. Even if it was unpopular, even if it goes against our culture, even if it was counterintuitive, I decided that I needed to learn to do this God's way because my way did not work. My way caused a lot of pain for me and my husband, and it did not glorify God at all. So I had to get rid of some things. First, I had a very childish understanding of God. I learned when I was 5 years old that I was in control. I thought that I learned that I was in control more than God. I thought that I was way more responsible for things and for other people than I really am. And that made me feel like I was huge and powerful and sovereign and God was a wimp. So I had to learn that that was not true, that God is huge and powerful and I am the wimp. And God's wisdom is wise and mine is foolishness. I also had to tackle all my fears and realize that God is big enough to handle that. So I had to write down all my biggest fears, worst case scenarios, and decide that God could actually take me through that and it was going to be okay. I had a small picture of God, a huge picture of myself that needed a big adjustment. So I had to take myself down many, many notches and exalt God above everything. And I also had to get rid of toxic messages from our culture, things that we just marinate in. And most of us, I would say under 50 years old, this is just normal mainstream thought now, but we don't even realize how toxic it is, what poison we have swallowed. So I had to consciously look at what messages does our culture teach us about men and women. Things like men are idiots, and we see that in commercials and on TV shows, and men are portrayed as being dumb or stupid or incompetent or incapable, and women are often portrayed as being very smart and clever and as being much more wise than men. And we don't think about it much, but those messages, they're subliminal sometimes, but they impact the way we look at men. Our culture says women should be independent. You should take care of yourself. You shouldn't depend on a man. Well, that works great when you're single, but when you're married, you are a team. And I learned growing up being a student in school that I hated group projects. And I would do all the work myself because I didn't trust anybody else to do it right. And I did not learn how to be a team player. And marriage is all about being a team player. So being independent in marriage is a recipe for disaster. Our culture also tells us that women have to take control, that men will abuse you and they'll misuse you if you allow them to have control. And there are some men that will do that. Men who have addictions or men who are not close to God at all. But most men, when you allow them to have control, actually become better men. And they actually become less selfish and more responsible. And then that whole concept of women and men are equal, and marriage should be equal. So he does his 50% and you do your 50%, and then you measure every little tiny thing. Well, I took the trash out 3 times and he only took it out 2 times, so he owes me. That mentality is so destructive. That trying to measure and make everything be 50-50 equal. See, the thing is that men and women don't judge things the same way, so we think that we're measuring 50-50, but our husbands measure a totally different way. It really works much better when we don't concentrate on trying to be equal. We concentrate on being a servant, on seeking God's will and His glory, and on showing love and respect. Men need love and respect, and women need love and respect. It's just that women tend to not be so great with respect, so we have to work on that more. And men tend not to be quite as good with love, and so they have to focus on that more. But trying to be equal is a destructive goal, and it doesn't make strong marriages, in my opinion. There are probably other things too that you may have from your childish understanding that need to be changed, or from your culture, or from your parents' marriage, or from your first marriage, or from other relationships that may not be from God. So we have to go through all of our thoughts, all of what we believe, all of what we hold dear and cherish, and really examine ourselves in the light of God's Word, and only keep the things that glorify God.